Hi, Doc Martin, the lone journalist for KRAZ-TV with another great book for review here at Zero Channel. That's right, it's called Wastelands, the true story of farm country on trial, by Corban Addison, with a foreword by John Grisham. It's a horrendous story, and it's a true story, and it is printed by Regulus Books LLC, and the forward copy is by Belfry Holdings. The cover design is Linda Huang, and let's see what they say about the author. That's his little picture there on the... Anyways, Corban Addison is an internationally best-selling author of 4 novels: A Walk Across the Sun, A Garden of Burning Sands, The Tears of Dark Water, a winner of inaugural Wilbur Smith Adventure Writing Prize, and A Harvest of Thorns, all of which address some of today's most pressing human rights issues. Wastelands is his first work of nonfiction. An attorney, an activist, and world traveler, he lives with his wife and children in Virginia. This story is about, well, they want to make sure they tell you that this was really about odor, but it's really about big corporation doing whatever it wants, and on the face of the poor, and most of them were black, in North Carolina. Now, it involves hog waste, and they had some horrendous... They said that 8,000 hogs would put out 30,000 people's worth of waste in a day. And so they had to dig these billion-dollar and billion-gallon and multi-million-gallon lagoons where they pumped the feces and the urine in there, and then they'd pump it out and spray it out over fields, and they didn't care if it went through the air and got on the neighbors. They were black. They didn't give a crap about them. This is a true story, so I mean, I'm not going to hold back here, you know. They were pissed, the people, and they tried and tried. Nobody'd do anything for, like, well, it was easily 20 years. 20 years. They begged and tried and tried and tried, and just, well, Big Pork had its way in North Carolina. Well, there's this company called Smithfield Hams. You've probably heard of them. I heard them when I was in the early days, but in the 50s and 60s. But anyways, they sold out to, well, Wendell Murphy and John Luter, between them, built a North Carolina, and then sold out to Smithfield, and then Smithfield came in from Virginia and started this huge operation. So there were 2,000 farms all around, mostly in the east, but they were everywhere else, but mostly on the east side, on the coastal plains of I-95 in that area. And it was horrendous. You could smell hog crap for miles when they shot it out, and they shot it out in big spray guns so that they could dissipate it in the air, but it would pollute and pollute and pollute. It got into all the waters. They've been told to stop, and well, they took over the legislature and actually mandated and dictated laws just for themselves. So here's the crux of it. The once idyllic coast plain of North Carolina is home to a close-knit rural community that for more than a generation has battled the polluting practices of a large-scale farming taking place in its own backyard. After years of frustration and futility, an impassioned cadre of local residents led by a team of intrepid and dedicated lawyers filed a lawsuit against the world's most powerful companies, and miraculously they won. As vivid and fast-paced as a thriller, Wasteland takes us into the heart of a legal battle over the future of America's farmland and to the lives of people who found the courage to fight. There is Elsie Herring, the most outspoken of the neighbors, who has endured racial slurs and the threat of a restraining order to tell the story of the waste raining down on her rooftop from the hog operation next door. There is Don Webb, the larger-than-life hog farmer turned grassroots crusader, and Rick Dove, a riverkeeper and erstwhile military judge, who has pioneered the use of aerial photography to document the scale of the pollution. There is Wendell Gowan, the quiet man whose quest to redeem his family's ancestral land encourages him to become a better neighbor, and Dr. Stephen Wing, a groundbreaking epidemiologist whose work on the health effects of hog waste exposure translates the neighbor stories into the argot of science. And there is Tom Butler, an environmental savant and hog industry insider whose whistleblowing testimony electrifies the jury. Fighting alongside them in the courtroom is Mona Lisa Wallace, who broke the gender barrier in a small southern town and built a storied legal career out of vanquishing corporate giants, and Mark Kasky, whose trial skills are second to none. With journalistic rigor and a novelist instinct for story, Corban Addison captures the inspiring struggle to bring a modern-day monopoly to its knees, to force a once invincible corporation to change, and to preserve the right and restore the heritage of a long-suffering community. Well, that's in a nutshell. There's so much more to go in here. But, you know, we did another book similar to this. It was called Wasteland, and it was about the waste in the world. This is Wastelands. And, of course, it involves a fight to do what's right and just to keep it out of the neighbors. And it really was over the enjoyment of people's land, and they just couldn't, well, they were screwed, in other words. That's why it's an adult book and over here at the Zero Channel. So, even the legislature, some of the big hog activists really tried to run through laws, and they almost got them saying, well, if anything now on the books got thrown out, and then they made them change it to pending cases, and in the end, when they thought they were going to lose, they dragged that law up, and they said, well, wait a minute, that meant pending case. This is a current case. You can't do that. And they squealed like a hog over that. It was sickening. It was just sickening. But it's a true and a heartfelt story. And in the end, they figured out is what they also called environmental racism. And it divided a lot of communities. A lot of untrue and hurtful things were said about people. The N-word came up a lot about black people, and it just infuriated. Then they said that Mona Lisa Wallace was an out-of-state, and she was born in North Carolina and born and bred, and she was a Southern lawyer, and she took up for these people, and then they had to bring in a high-powered Texas lawyer, Mike. He tore him a new one. But then they started taking a look. It's just people out to rob the good people and the farmers, and it was just a real, it was a boondoggle of propaganda that almost did them in. But they went to trial. There was a lot of plaintiffs in the case, and they went to 5 different cases because they didn't do a global settlement or a class action, but they had 5 different trials, and they won each time. And Boss Hogg couldn't believe he was getting skint, you know. So, but each time they whittled the awards down, so in the last trials they didn't get as much as they did in the first trials. But punitive damages, you know, they asked a lot. So in the end, they paid up millions and millions, 475 million. It was one of the largest settlements in the and then of course they fought it all the way to the appeals. And then they thought, wow, we've won all of this, and it can be took away from us by 3 judges, or even 1 judge. But in the end, justice prevailed, and the judges ruled for the people. And I hope they've paid off, you know. Who knows, they may have not. Now this just happens. The trial ended after COVID, or during it was 2018, and then through appeals and all that, it didn't get done till 20. This book was written in 2021. And John Grisham, of course, in the front, where he always says, well, I've been through the plight, and I've met people, and I wish I'd written this book. So I think you'll really like it. It's a real human story. And they thought they'd had to try it on state ground because it all happened. But then Smithfield did a stupid thing and went back to their corporate headquarters and crossed state lines into Virginia, where the headquarters of Smithfield is. And from that it turned to a federal case. And they were able to get better jurisdiction and help because it was a federal case versus state. Because if it had been in the state and the way the state had been steamrolled over by these large hog concerns, they weren't going to ever even hardly see the light of day. But they prevailed, and it took a toll on a lot of people. But her mother, Beulah Herring, had the land. She was a black woman from the turn of the century. Got land, and of course, wouldn't you know it, she had 100 acres or something, and she had a white man back then, or somebody, survey it, and he came back and screwed her out of half the land. And then, we couldn't find those deeds and anything, and so what little acreage they had left, 35 or 8, I don't know how much they had. It was a lot less. Well, once they got set up next to these hog farmers, they didn't care. They shot the crap up in the air, but anyways, they used epidemiology and science. Then they used experts, but some of the better experts for the plaintiffs really did their homework. And of course everybody said, oh, well, you're using dead people's, Stephen Wing died, but he said, I want this to be on tape. So his testimony was caught and recorded just before he passed away. So people in the end prevailed, and you can prevail. I don't know why my camera's going in and out, but anyways, I better get out of here. It's been a long time. And, well, you just got to read the book. It's in large print, though. And at first I didn't know if I was going to like it, but the more I read it, I couldn't put it down. Wastelands, a true story of farm country on trial. And no farmer really was hurt in the making of this book. Thanks for watching, and Corban Addison, what a great job he's done. Get this book at your library like we did. Our Pima County Public Library. Nanini. Now, Nanini Library, we've been going in there clandestinely, and because they don't like cameras in a library, but I've just shot the front entrance, and last week we did Mother's Day where they honored moms. So from book lovers everywhere, keep reading. Doc Martin for KRZ TV.